A newly hired food service employee asks about the minimum internal cooking temperature required for ground beef. What is the correct temperature requirement? A. 145 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. B. 155 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. C. 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. D. 135 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. At what temperature should cold TCS, time temperature control for safety, foods be stored to prevent bacterial growth? A. 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. B. 45 degrees Fahrenheit or below. C. 39 degrees Fahrenheit or below. D. 32 degrees Fahrenheit or below. A restaurant manager notices that the walk-in cooler temperature is reading 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Upon investigation, they find several boxes of raw chicken that have been at this temperature for 5 hours. What should be the immediate course of action? A. Cool the chicken quickly to 41 degrees Fahrenheit and continue using it. B. Discard the chicken and document the incident. C. Cook the chicken immediately to kill bacteria. D. Check the internal temperature of the chicken before deciding. During a busy lunch service, an employee notices that the sanitizer solution in the 3-compartment sink has no chemical smell. What should they test first? A. Water temperature. B. Sanitizer concentration. C. pH level. D. Water hardness. A food service establishment receives a shipment of frozen fish. Which of the following indicates that the shipment is acceptable upon delivery? A. The fish is at 35 degrees Fahrenheit and partially thawed. B. The fish is labeled frozen, appears solid, and reads 30 degrees Fahrenheit on a calibrated thermometer. C. The fish is at 38 degrees Fahrenheit, but the exterior feels cold to the touch. D. The fish is at 41 degrees Fahrenheit, which is acceptable for fresh fish. Which cleaning method should be used for a stationary mixer that has been used to prepare raw chicken? A. Wipe with sanitizer solution. B. Clean with detergent, rinse, sanitize, air dry. C. Spray with disinfectant and wipe dry. D. Rinse with hot water and sanitize. If a food service worker has been diagnosed with hepatitis A, when can they safely return to work? A. After taking medication for 24 hours. B. When symptoms subside. C. With doctor's note and health department approval. D. After 1 week of rest. A food worker observes small black droppings near the dry storage area. What sequence of actions should they take? A. Set traps, clean area, document findings. B. Document findings, contact pest control, remove food, clean area. C. Spray pesticide, clean area, document findings. D. Clean area, document findings, wait for next inspection. What is the maximum amount of time opened ready-to-eat TCS food can be stored in a properly functioning cooler at 41 degrees Fahrenheit? A. 5 days. B. 7 days. C. 3 days. D. 10 days. A prep cook notices that several tomatoes in a case show signs of mold. The remaining tomatoes appear fresh. What should they do? A. Remove visible mold and use good tomatoes. B. Discard entire case and sanitize storage area. C. Cut away moldy parts and use remainder. D. Wash tomatoes thoroughly before use. A food handler is preparing a turkey sandwich. Which of the following practices would most likely result in cross-contamination? A. Using separate cutting boards for raw turkey and ready-to-eat ingredients. B. Washing hands after handling raw turkey before assembling the sandwich. C. Using the same knife to slice both raw turkey and the sandwich without washing it. D. Storing the turkey below ready-to-eat foods in the refrigerator. A shipment of vacuum-packed fresh fish arrives at a restaurant at 48 degrees Fahrenheit. What should the manager do next? A. Accept the fish, but place it in the freezer immediately. B. Accept the fish if it does not have a strong odor. C. Reject the fish and document the temperature upon delivery. D. Cook the fish immediately to kill any bacteria. A prep cook is cooling a large batch of chili. Which method is not considered a safe way to rapidly cool the food? A. Placing the chili in shallow pans no more than 2 inches deep. B. Stirring the chili frequently in an ice water bath. C. Placing the chili in the walk-in cooler while still hot. D. Using a blast chiller to lower the temperature quickly. Which of the following scenarios requires immediate exclusion of a food handler from work? A. A food handler with a minor cut on their finger covered with a bandage and glove. B. A food handler diagnosed with norovirus. C. A food handler with seasonal allergies causing sneezing and watery eyes. D. A food handler with a sore throat but no fever. A manager notices that employees are improperly washing dishes in a 3-compartment sink. What is the correct order for washing dishes manually? A. Rinse, wash, sanitize, air dry. B. Wash, rinse, sanitize, air dry. C. Wash, sanitize, rinse, air dry. D. Rinse, sanitize, wash, air dry. A restaurant is experiencing an increase in customer complaints about undercooked hamburgers. What is the best corrective action for the manager to take? A. Train cooks to use a food thermometer and verify proper cooking temperatures. B. Increase the grill temperature to cook burgers faster. C. Require customers to sign a waiver before ordering rare burgers. D. Cook all hamburgers well done to eliminate complaints. A food service worker is diagnosed with hepatitis A. What must the manager do? A. Allow the worker to continue working, but restrict them from handling food. B. Report the illness to the local health department and exclude the worker. C. Instruct the worker to wear gloves at all times while handling food. D. Require the worker to take antibiotics before returning to work. A manager notices a cockroach in the dry storage area. What is the first action the manager should take? A. Spray insecticide immediately to kill the cockroach. B. Notify the licensed pest control operator, PCO. C. Set traps throughout the restaurant. D. Move all food products to a different storage area. A chef prepares a large batch of soup and stores it in a deep container in the cooler. Several hours later, the soup is still above 70 degrees Fahrenheit. What is the best corrective action? A. Reheat the soup to 165 degrees Fahrenheit and serve immediately. B. Divide the soup into smaller containers and continue cooling. C. Leave the soup in the cooler until it reaches 41 degrees Fahrenheit. D. Throw the soup away and investigate the cause of improper cooling. Which of the following foods is most likely to be a source of botulism? A. Fresh poultry stored at 35 degrees Fahrenheit. B. Canned vegetables with a swollen lid. C. Pasteurized milk stored at 38 degrees Fahrenheit. D. Fresh cut lettuce stored in a salad bar at 41 degrees Fahrenheit. A food handler is preparing a seafood salad using previously cooked shrimp. What is the maximum cold holding temperature allowed for the shrimp to ensure food safety? A. 45 degrees Fahrenheit. B. 41 degrees Fahrenheit. C. 50 degrees Fahrenheit. D. 32 degrees Fahrenheit. A manager notices that a food handler with a minor hand cut is about to prepare ready-to-eat food. What is the best course of action to ensure food safety? A. Have the employee wash their hands and apply a bandage before continuing work. B. Exclude the employee from the food prep area until the wound has healed completely. C. Require the employee to wear a single-use glove over a bandaged wound before handling food. D. No action is needed if the wound is not actively bleeding. A restaurant receives a delivery of live oysters. What is the proper method for verifying their safety before accepting the shipment? A. Ensure the oysters are stored at an air temperature of 50 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. B. Confirm the supplier is listed on the Interstate Certified Shellfish Shippers list. C. Check that the oysters have a mild, fishy smell and open shells. D. Make sure the delivery truck's refrigeration system is working properly. Which of the following situations presents the highest risk of cross-contact for a customer with a peanut allergy? A. A chef uses a clean spoon to serve peanut sauce at a buffet. B. A food handler preps a peanut-containing dish and then immediately prepares a salad without changing gloves. C. A server mistakenly gives a peanut-free dish to the wrong customer before realizing the mistake and correcting it. D. A kitchen worker wipes down a prep surface with hot, soapy water after making a peanut dish. A food worker is cooling a large pot of soup. What is the correct method to cool it safely? A. Leave it at room temperature for 2 hours, then refrigerate. B. Place it in an ice water bath and stir frequently. C. Transfer the soup to deep containers and put it directly into the walk-in cooler. D. Cover it tightly with plastic wrap and place it in a freezer. During a routine inspection, a health inspector finds that a restaurant's chlorine sanitizing solution has a concentration of 25 parts per million. What action should be taken? A. Use the solution as it is, since chlorine is still present. B. Increase the concentration to 50 to 100 parts per million and retest. C. Replace the chlorine solution with an iodine-based sanitizer. D. Dilute the solution further with water to avoid chemical contamination. Which of the following best describes how a foodborne illness outbreak is determined? A. One person becomes ill after consuming contaminated food. B. At least 2 people experience the same symptoms after eating the same food, confirmed by laboratory analysis. C. A food handler tests positive for a foodborne illness, regardless of symptoms. D. A health inspector finds a serious food safety violation at a restaurant. Which of the following is an example of a physical contaminant in food? A. Pesticide residue on lettuce. B. Metal shavings in ground beef. C. Salmonella in undercooked chicken. D. Mold growth on bread. A server accidentally touches the rim of a customer's drinking glass while serving water. What should they do next? A. Serve the drink as usual since the contact was brief. B. Discard the water and provide a new glass. C. Wipe the rim with a clean cloth and continue serving. D. Notify the manager, but still serve the drink. A restaurant is closed for 2 days due to a sewage backup. Before reopening, what must the manager do? A. Conduct a deep cleaning of the affected areas and resume service. B. Ensure the local health department conducts an inspection and grants approval. C. Discard any refrigerated food items and resume normal operations. D. Flush all plumbing lines and disinfect floors before reopening. A TCS food is one that A. Can be safely held at room temperature for more than 8 hours. B. Supports rapid growth of pathogenic microorganisms. C. Does not require labeling if cooked in-house. D. Remains safe if thawed on the counter overnight. When storing raw poultry in a refrigerator, it should be placed A. Above raw fish, but below cooked meats. B. On the lowest shelf to prevent cross-contamination. C. Next to ready-to-eat salads for convenience. D. On the top shelf if packaged properly. A restaurant chef notices a suspicious odor in a shipment of ground beef that arrived at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The chef should A. Accept the shipment if the smell is mild and cook to 155 degrees Fahrenheit. B. Reject the shipment due to both temperature and odor issues. C. Store it in the freezer immediately and recheck in a few hours. D. Accept the shipment if the packaging looks intact. Which best describes why ready-to-eat salads must be date-marked? A. To indicate when the container was first opened by the supplier. B. To ensure they are used or discarded within 7 days when held at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. C. To track the pH levels of the greens for microbial testing. D. To prove the salads have not come into contact with allergens. A manager finds an employee using the same cutting board for raw chicken and lettuce without sanitizing. Which immediate step should the manager take? A. Instruct the employee to rinse the board with cold water and continue. B. Discard both the chicken and the lettuce to prevent cross-contamination. C. Quickly wipe the board with a paper towel and continue prepping. D. Keep prepping the chicken, but move the lettuce to another cutting board. A sous vide operation requires special documentation because A. No heat treatment is used at all. B. It is considered a low-acid, high-oxygen packaging method. C. Reduced oxygen packaging can encourage Clostridium botulinum growth. D. The FDA has banned sous vide cooking in food service establishments. A chef is cooling a large batch of stew. Which practice is most effective for safe cooling? A. Storing the pot on the counter until it reaches 70 degrees Fahrenheit. B. Submerging the pot in an ice water bath, stirring regularly. C. Covering the pot tightly and placing it on the top refrigerator shelf. D. Adding fresh, uncooked vegetables to lower the temperature. A food service worker with an open infected cut on the hand should A. Continue working if wearing a wristwatch to secure the bandage. B. Wash hands regularly and proceed as usual. C. Cover it with a clean, impermeable cover and wear a single-use glove. D. Apply antiseptic solution directly to food contact surfaces. A dish machine that uses hot water sanitization should have a final rinse temperature of at least A. 165 degrees Fahrenheit. B. 180 degrees Fahrenheit. C. 145 degrees Fahrenheit. D. 212 degrees Fahrenheit. A manager in a quick service restaurant notices employees frequently skipping the thermometer calibration step. Which action is most appropriate to correct this issue? A. Allow employees to visually assess food doneness by color. B. Implement a mandatory daily calibration log with supervisory verification. C. Discontinue the use of thermometers unless necessary. D. Have employees calibrate thermometers weekly instead of daily. In a suspected foodborne illness case, which symptom onset time most strongly suggests Staphylococcus aureus as the causative agent? A. 12 to 36 hours. B. 2 to 4 days. C. 30 minutes to 6 hours. D. 8 to 16 hours. What defines a foodborne illness outbreak according to the CDC? A. Any incident where customers report food poisoning. B. When multiple people get sick from the same pathogen. C. 2 or more unrelated people experiencing similar symptoms from the same food source. D. 3 or more cases of foodborne illness in 1 week. A restaurant receives reports of 5 customers experiencing severe vomiting within 2 to 3 hours after eating rice dishes. What is the most likely causative agent? A. E. coli, O. 157:H7. B. Salmonella enteritidis. C. Listeria monocytogenes. D. Bacillus cereus. During a foodborne illness investigation, which documentation should be collected first? A. Employee work schedules. B. Food supplier information. C. Customer complaint details. D. Temperature logs. If 3 unrelated individuals develop similar symptoms after eating at different times on the same day, what is the most important factor to investigate? A. Cleaning schedules. B. Common food items consumed. C. Employee health records. D. Restaurant ventilation system. A buffet restaurant reports 12 cases of illness within 48 hours. What should the health department investigate first? A. Recent food deliveries. B. Customer seating arrangements? C. Time temperature abuse of foods. D. Employee attendance records. Which scenario represents the strongest evidence of a true outbreak versus isolated cases? A. 5 sick people who ate different menu items. B. 3 sick people who know each other. C. 8 people with identical symptoms who ate the same dish. D. 2 people sick on consecutive days. What is the primary reason for maintaining detailed customer complaint logs during a suspected outbreak? A. Legal protection. B. Insurance requirements. C. Pattern identification. D. Health inspection compliance. A local health department receives multiple complaints of illness from 3 different restaurants. Which factor most strongly suggests a common source outbreak? A. Similar cuisine types. B. Geographical proximity. C. Common food supplier. D. Same day of illness onset. During a norovirus outbreak investigation, which time frame is most critical to review for potential exposure? A. 72 hours before first symptom. B. 24 to 48 hours before first symptom. C. 12 to 24 hours before first symptom. D. 48 to 72 hours before first symptom. A chef prepares a large batch of rice and leaves it in a covered pot at room temperature for 5 hours before refrigeration. What is the primary food safety risk associated with this practice? A. Bacillus cereus growth and toxin formation. B. E. coli multiplication in anaerobic conditions. C. Clostridium botulinum production of spores. D. Salmonella contamination from airborne exposure. A restaurant receives a shipment of shell eggs. Which of the following storage methods is correct to maintain food safety? A. Store eggs at an ambient temperature of 50 degrees Fahrenheit to prevent shell cracking. B. Keep eggs in a walk-in refrigerator at 38 degrees Fahrenheit with the shells intact. C. Store eggs at 41 degrees Fahrenheit in a container with ice to maintain freshness. D. Crack all eggs into a clean container and refrigerate for easy access. A cook removes a tray of grilled chicken from the oven and places it on the counter to cool. After 4 hours, the chicken is still at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. What should the cook do? A. Serve the chicken immediately to minimize waste. B. Place the chicken back in the oven and cook to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. C. Discard the chicken and review cooling procedures. D. Refrigerate the chicken quickly and reheat before serving. Which of the following foods requires time and temperature control for safety? TCS food. A. Dry pasta stored in a sealed container. B. Sliced watermelon held at room temperature. C. Whole, unpeeled raw potatoes stored in a dry area. D. Packaged saltine crackers stored in a pantry. A delivery of raw ground beef, shell eggs, cooked beans, and fresh produce arrives at a restaurant. Which item should be stored at the highest shelf level in the refrigerator? A. Cooked beans. B. Shell eggs. C. Fresh produce. D. Raw ground beef. A food handler must thaw frozen TCS food quickly. Which method is unsafe and should never be used? A. Under refrigeration at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. B. In a sink under running water at 70 degrees Fahrenheit or below. C. In a microwave if cooked immediately after. D. On the counter at room temperature for faster thawing. A manager is training employees on cooling procedures for TCS foods. Which statement indicates a misunderstanding of the process? A. We can divide large batches of hot food into smaller portions before cooling. B. We should let hot food sit at room temperature until it reaches 41 degrees Fahrenheit before refrigerating. C. We can use an ice water bath to cool hot foods more quickly. D. We need to monitor and document the cooling process for food safety compliance. A chef is preparing a batch of homemade garlic and oil dressing for storage. What must be done to prevent botulism growth? A. Store the dressing at room temperature to enhance flavor development. B. Use only dried garlic instead of fresh garlic to prevent contamination. C. Refrigerate the dressing at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below and label it properly. D. Increase the oil content to create an anaerobic environment for preservation. Which of the following statements about TCS food storage is correct? A. Cooked pasta should be stored at 50 degrees Fahrenheit to prevent it from hardening. B. Raw poultry should be stored above raw fish in the refrigerator. C. Leftover TCS foods must be labeled and discarded within 7 days if held at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. D. Hot-held food can be safely stored at 120 degrees Fahrenheit for service. A server brings a tray of dairy-based desserts to a banquet. After 2 hours, the desserts are at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. What should be done with them? A. Return them to the refrigerator for later service. B. Serve them immediately before they reach an unsafe temperature. C. Discard them, as they have been in the temperature danger zone too long. D. Heat them to 165 degrees Fahrenheit before serving to kill bacteria. A chef prepares a batch of tomato soup and leaves it on the counter to cool before refrigerating. After 2 hours, the soup measures 90 degrees Fahrenheit. What is the best course of action? A. Transfer the soup to shallow pans and continue cooling in an ice bath before placing in the refrigerator. B. Discard the soup immediately, as it has spent too long in the temperature danger zone. C. Reheat the soup to 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds and then refrigerate it. D. Place the soup in the refrigerator as is and allow it to cool naturally. A food worker is monitoring a buffet station and notices that a tray of cooked rice has been at 120 degrees Fahrenheit for over 3 hours. What should they do? A. Discard the rice immediately. B. Reheat the rice to 165 degrees Fahrenheit and serve within 2 hours. C. Stir the rice to redistribute heat and check the temperature again in 30 minutes. D. Transfer the rice to a hot holding unit set at 135 degrees Fahrenheit and continue service. A restaurant manager is training employees on cooling methods to avoid time temperature abuse. Which of the following is not a recommended cooling practice? A. Dividing hot food into smaller portions before cooling. B. Using a blast chiller for large batches of hot food. C. Placing deep containers of steaming hot food directly into the refrigerator. D. Stirring food in an ice water bath to speed up cooling. A caterer is transporting hot food to an off-site event. Upon arrival, they find that the temperature of the beef stroganoff has dropped to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. What should they do? A. Serve the food immediately since it is close to the safe hot holding temperature. B. Reheat the stroganoff to 165 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours before serving. C. Mix the stroganoff with freshly cooked hot food to restore temperature. D. Place the stroganoff in a heated chafing dish to maintain its current temperature. A health inspector observes a worker checking the temperature of a casserole that has been cooling for 3 hours. The thermometer reads 72 degrees Fahrenheit. What should the worker do? A. Continue cooling the casserole until it reaches 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Reheat the casserole to 165 degrees Fahrenheit and restart the cooling process. C. Immediately discard the casserole. D. Transfer the casserole to a blast chiller to speed up cooling. Which of the following food items would be considered safe to serve based on time temperature control guidelines? A. Sliced melons held at 50 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 hours. B. Chicken soup cooled from 135 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit in 2 hours, and then to 41 degrees Fahrenheit in 4 hours. C. Cooked pasta left at room temperature for 2 hours before refrigeration. D. Raw ground beef stored at 45 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 hours before cooking. Which of the following scenarios presents the greatest risk of bacterial growth? A. A baked potato stored at 38 degrees Fahrenheit. B. Cooked chicken breast left at 125 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. C. A cut watermelon held at 41 degrees Fahrenheit. D. A frozen raw steak thawing in a refrigerator at 39 degrees Fahrenheit. A restaurant must hold chili for service without temperature control. What is the maximum time allowed before it must be discarded? A. 2 hours. B. 4 hours. C. 6 hours. D. 8 hours. A chef removes a tray of lasagna from the oven at 165 degrees Fahrenheit and places it on the counter to cool. After 1 hour, the temperature is 120 degrees Fahrenheit. What should the chef do? A. Continue cooling and check the temperature again in an hour. B. Move the lasagna to the refrigerator immediately. C. Reheat the lasagna to 165 degrees Fahrenheit and restart the cooling process. D. Place the lasagna in an ice bath and stir occasionally. A worker is using time as a public health control for a batch of sandwiches displayed at room temperature. What must be done to ensure food safety? A. Label each sandwich with the time it was removed from refrigeration and discard within 4 hours. B. Rotate sandwiches every 2 hours to keep them fresh. C. Refrigerate any remaining sandwiches after 3 hours to prevent bacterial growth. D. Monitor the sandwich's temperature and discard only if they exceed 70 degrees Fahrenheit. At what pH range do most foodborne pathogens grow best? A. 0 to 2. B. 2 to 4. C. 6 to 8. D. 8 to 10. Which food characteristic most significantly impacts bacterial growth potential? A. Color. B. Texture. C. Water activity. AW. D. Shape. A chef notices cooked rice has been left at room temperature, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, for 4 hours. According to F. Tom, which factors are most concerning in this situation? A. Food type and acidity. B. Temperature and moisture. C. Oxygen and food type. D. Time and temperature. In which temperature range do aerobic bacteria typically multiply most rapidly? A. 35 degrees Fahrenheit to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. B. 41 degrees Fahrenheit to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. C. 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. D. 140 degrees Fahrenheit to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. A vacuum-sealed package of smoked fish is stored at proper refrigeration temperature. Which Fat Tom factor is being primarily controlled? A. Moisture. B. Time. C. Oxygen. D. Food type. How does adding salt to food primarily prevent bacterial growth? A. By increasing acidity. B. By changing food composition. C. By reducing water activity. D. By altering temperature requirements. Which combination of Fat Tom conditions creates the highest risk for Clostridium botulinum growth? A. High acid, low oxygen. B. Low acid, high oxygen. C. High acid, high oxygen. D. Low acid, low oxygen. A food service operation stores sliced melons in the cooler. Which Fat Tom factor makes this product particularly high risk, even when refrigerated? A. Temperature variation. B. Oxygen exposure. C. Moisture content. D. Acidity level. What effect does reducing oxygen have on Clostridium perfringens spores in cooked meat? A. Prevents spore formation. B. Kills existing spores. C. Promotes spore germination. D. Has no effect on spores. In a sous vide cooking process, which Fat Tom factors must be most carefully controlled to ensure safety? A. Food type and moisture. B. Acidity and oxygen. C. Time and temperature. D. Moisture and oxygen. A hospital cafeteria is preparing food for immunocompromised patients. Which of the following menu items would pose the greatest food safety risk? A. Pasteurized apple juice served at 41 degrees Fahrenheit. B. A Caesar salad made with raw eggs in the dressing. C. A grilled chicken breast cooked to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. D. Mashed potatoes held at 135 degrees Fahrenheit on the steam table. A preschool is serving lunch to children under the age of 5. Which of the following foods should be excluded from the menu due to safety concerns? A. Whole grapes served as a snack. B. Scrambled eggs cooked to 155 degrees Fahrenheit. C. Cheese cubes served with crackers. D. Whole wheat pasta with tomato sauce. A nursing home resident is diagnosed with a foodborne illness caused by Listeria monocytogenes. Which of the following foods was most likely the source of contamination? A. Hard-boiled eggs stored at 38 degrees Fahrenheit. B. Soft, unpasteurized cheese served with fruit. C. Cooked vegetables held at 135 degrees Fahrenheit. D. Fresh bread rolls made in-house. Which of the following is the best strategy for reducing foodborne illness risk in a long-term care facility? A. Requiring all staff members to wear gloves at all times when handling food. B. Implementing a strict policy against serving raw sprouts and unpasteurized dairy products. C. Freezing all raw meats for 48 hours before cooking. D. Allowing high-risk residents to consume raw seafood only if requested in writing. A daycare is preparing meals for children with weakened immune systems. Which of the following procedures is incorrect and should be corrected immediately? A. Storing all TCS foods at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. B. Offering pasteurized milk instead of raw milk. C. Serving fresh squeezed, unpasteurized orange juice. D. Cooking ground beef patties to an internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. A hospital's food service department is revising its menu to improve food safety for patients undergoing chemotherapy. Which of the following menu items should be removed due to safety concerns? A. Well-cooked salmon with steamed vegetables. B. Deli-style turkey sandwich with raw sprouts. C. Baked potatoes served with sour cream. D. Yogurt made with pasteurized milk. A nursing home chef is preparing scrambled eggs for breakfast. What is the minimum safe cooking temperature to prevent salmonella contamination for this high-risk population? A. 145 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. B. 155 degrees Fahrenheit for 17 seconds. C. 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 minutes. D. 175 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 seconds. A hospital cafeteria is serving a catered meal for patients. Which of the following practices would require immediate corrective action? A. Hot soup held at 145 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours before service. B. A fruit salad prepared using pre-cut melons stored at 38 degrees Fahrenheit. C. A cheese platter featuring unpasteurized brie and blue cheese. D. Baked chicken breasts cooked to 165 degrees Fahrenheit and served immediately. A food service director at a nursing home is training staff on foodborne illness prevention. Which of the following statements indicates a need for further training? A. We should always use pasteurized eggs when preparing dishes like hollandaise sauce. B. Soft cheeses such as feta and brie should only be served if made from pasteurized milk. C. Steaks ordered medium rare can be safely served to residents as long as they reach 130 degrees Fahrenheit. D. Leftover TCS foods should be labeled and discarded after 7 days if held at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. A chef is planning meals for an immunocompromised patient. Which of the following modifications should be made to the menu to enhance food safety? A. Replace raw sushi-grade tuna with fully cooked fish. B. Serve all fruits and vegetables raw to preserve nutrients. C. Use farm-fresh, unpasteurized milk for better flavor. D. Allow patients to consume cold deli meats if stored at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. A restaurant is suspected of being the source of a multi-state foodborne illness outbreak linked to contaminated lettuce. Which agency is primarily responsible for leading the investigation at the national level? A. Food and Drug Administration. FDA. B. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. CDC. C. United States Department of Agriculture. USDA. D. State and local health departments. A meatpacking plant is undergoing a routine inspection to ensure compliance with food safety regulations. Which government agency is responsible for conducting this inspection? A. Food and Drug Administration, FDA. B. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. C. United States Department of Agriculture, USDA. D. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. Which of the following best describes the FDA's role in food safety? A. Regulating and inspecting dairy farms and milk processing plants. B. Enforcing food safety standards for meat and poultry products. C. Overseeing the safety of processed foods, seafood, and produce. D. Conducting health inspections for food service establishments. A local health department finds that a restaurant is consistently failing to maintain proper food temperatures. What is the most likely consequence? A. The FDA will issue a nationwide recall for all food served at the restaurant. B. The USDA will require the restaurant to halt all operations until compliance is met. C. The restaurant may be issued a violation, fined, or temporarily shut down by the local health authority. D. The CDC will investigate the restaurant for a potential foodborne illness outbreak. The FDA Model Food Code is updated every few years to provide guidance on food safety regulations. How is it typically implemented? A. The FDA enforces the food code as a federal law in all states. B. Each state and local jurisdiction adopts the food code voluntarily and may modify it. C. The USDA requires all meat and poultry processors to follow the food code. D. The CDC mandates that all food establishments follow the food code to prevent illness outbreaks. A recall has been issued for a batch of ground beef contaminated with E. coli O157:H7. Which agency is responsible for overseeing this recall? A. Food and Drug Administration, FDA. B. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. CDC. C. United States Department of Agriculture. USDA. D. Occupational Safety and Health Administration. OSHA. Which of the following scenarios would most likely require FDA intervention? A. A poultry processing plant has a salmonella outbreak. B. A restaurant is found using expired dairy products in food preparation. C. A company distributes canned tuna containing high levels of mercury. D. A dairy farm fails to meet proper pasteurization standards. Which federal agency is responsible for setting and enforcing regulations on pesticide use in food production? A. Food and Drug Administration, FDA. B. United States Department of Agriculture, USDA. C. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. D. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. A health inspector finds that a restaurant is repeatedly failing to meet food safety standards. What is the inspector's most severe enforcement action? A. Issuing a written warning and requiring corrective action within a specified time. B. Fining the establishment for repeated violations. C. Temporarily shutting down the restaurant until violations are corrected. D. Requesting that the FDA revoke the restaurant's operating license. Which of the following statements about food safety regulatory agencies is correct? A. The CDC enforces food safety laws to prevent foodborne illnesses. B. The USDA regulates all food products sold in the U.S. C. The FDA oversees food labeling requirements for most packaged foods. D. Local health departments are responsible for regulating food production facilities. What is the primary purpose of the FDA Food Code? A. To enforce federal food regulations. B. To collect fees from food establishments. C. To serve as a reference for state food regulations. D. To certify food service workers. According to the current FDA Food Code, what is the minimum hot water temperature required for mechanical warewashing sanitization? A. 165 degrees Fahrenheit. B. 155 degrees Fahrenheit. C. 145 degrees Fahrenheit. D. 180 degrees Fahrenheit. A health inspector observes a hand-washing sink being used to prep vegetables. What section of the Food Code addresses this violation? A. Chapter 4, Equipment and Utensils. B. Chapter 2, Management and Personnel. C. Chapter 5, Water, Plumbing, and Waste. D. Chapter 3, Food. When does the FDA typically release major updates to the Food Code? A. Annually. B. Monthly. C. Every 5 years. D. Every 2 years. A state is considering adopting the latest food code. Which modification would most likely require FDA review? A. Stricter cooking temperatures. B. Additional employee training requirements. C. Modified inspection scoring system. D. Changes to critical violation parameters. Under the current food code, what is required for a food establishment seeking a variance for specialized processing methods? A. Local health department approval only. B. Written standard operating procedures. C. HACCP plan and scientific data. D. Third-party certification. A restaurant plans to use time as a public health control instead of temperature. According to the food code, what must they document? A. Employee training records. B. Temperature logs. C. Written procedures and monitoring methods. D. Customer notifications. Which food code provision would most likely be modified by a state in a drought-prone region? A. Sanitizer concentration requirements. B. Water pressure specifications. C. Hand washing procedure duration. D. Ice machine cleaning frequency. According to the food code, what is required when transitioning from a previous version to a new version? A. Immediate compliance with all provisions. B. Employee retraining only. C. Facility renovation plan. D. Phase-in implementation period. Which food code reference material would be most helpful when installing new refrigeration units? A. Chapter 1, Purpose and Definitions. B. Chapter 7, Poisonous Materials. C. Chapter 4, Equipment Requirements. D. Chapter 6, Physical Facilities. A food handler is preparing raw chicken on a red cutting board and then immediately begins slicing cucumbers for a salad on the same board without cleaning it. What type of contamination is this? A. Physical contamination. B. Chemical contamination. C. Cross-contamination. D. Cross-contact. Which of the following is the best way to prevent cross-contamination when storing food in a refrigerator? A. Storing raw poultry on the top shelf and cooked foods below it. B. Keeping all food items wrapped but storing them randomly. C. Placing ready-to-eat foods above raw meats and using designated storage areas. D. Storing all raw meats together regardless of type to minimize contact with other items. A food worker is assigned to prepare allergen-free meals for guests with dietary restrictions. Which action could lead to dangerous cross-contact? A. Using a separate set of utensils and equipment for allergen-free meals. B. Preparing the allergen-free meals in the same fryer used for regular menu items. C. Washing hands and changing gloves before handling allergen-free food. D. Cleaning and sanitizing all surfaces before preparing allergen-free dishes. Which of the following situations demonstrates proper prevention of cross-contamination? A. A cook uses the same knife to cut raw beef and slice sandwich bread. B. A food worker places a cutting board in the three-compartment sink after using it for raw chicken. C. A server refills a guest's drink by touching the rim of the glass. D. A food handler stores ready-to-eat salads and raw shellfish in the same uncovered container. A manager observes a cook using a cutting board to prepare raw seafood, then wiping it with a dry towel before chopping vegetables. What is the correct corrective action? A. Allow the cook to continue, as wiping removes surface contamination. B. Require the cook to wash, rinse, and sanitize the cutting board before use. C. Instruct the cook to use a different towel to wipe down the board more thoroughly. D. Spray a sanitizing solution on the board and immediately begin using it again. A server notices that a guest's plate has been mistakenly placed in the kitchen next to raw chicken being prepared. What should the server do? A. Serve the food immediately to avoid waste. B. Ask the guest if they still want the meal. C. Discard the meal and request a new one to be prepared. D. Wipe off the plate and serve it to a different guest. Which practice is not an effective way to prevent cross-contamination in a food prep area? A. Using separate cutting boards for raw meats and produce. B. Storing cleaning chemicals away from food preparation areas. C. Using the same gloves for raw meats and ready-to-eat foods to save time. D. Assigning specific prep areas for allergen-free meal preparation. Which of the following procedures should be followed when a food contact surface becomes contaminated during preparation? A. Wipe the surface with a damp paper towel and continue working. B. Clean and sanitize the surface immediately before resuming food preparation. C. Allow the surface to air dry naturally without additional cleaning. D. Cover the contaminated surface with parchment paper and continue using it. A food handler is transferring raw ground beef patties to the grill and then assembling cooked burgers with their bare hands. What is the primary risk in this scenario? A. Chemical contamination from improper storage of raw beef. B. Cross-contamination from handling raw and cooked food without washing hands. C. Physical contamination from using metal utensils on raw meat. D. Overcooking the burgers due to improper handling techniques. A chef is preparing raw chicken for cooking and needs to switch to handling ready-to-eat salad ingredients. What step must be taken before switching tasks? A. Wipe hands with a damp cloth and use a separate knife. B. Wash hands, change gloves, and use a clean, sanitized cutting board. C. Quickly rinse hands under warm water and continue working. D. Use the same gloves to save time, but wash the knife with hot water. A chef removes a tray of lasagna from the oven at 165 degrees Fahrenheit and places it on the counter to cool. After 2 hours, the lasagna is still at 90 degrees Fahrenheit. What should be done to ensure food safety? A. Continue cooling the lasagna until it reaches 41 degrees Fahrenheit within the next 4 hours. B. Immediately discard the lasagna due to improper cooling. C. Reheat the lasagna to 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds and restart the cooling process. D. Transfer the lasagna to shallow pans and place it in an ice water bath. A restaurant is using thyme as a public health control for sushi rice, stored at room temperature. What step must be taken to comply with food safety regulations? A. Ensure the rice is labeled with the time it was removed from temperature control and discard after 4 hours. B. Keep the rice at room temperature indefinitely as long as it is cooked properly. C. Stir the rice frequently to prevent bacteria from growing. D. Store the rice in a closed container to minimize exposure to contaminants. A food inspector finds that a batch of cooked chicken breasts has been held at 120 degrees Fahrenheit in a hot holding unit for 3 hours. What corrective action should the manager take? A. Immediately discard the chicken. B. Reheat the chicken to 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds within 2 hours. C. Adjust the hot holding unit to 135 degrees Fahrenheit and continue service. D. Serve the chicken immediately to minimize additional time in the TDZ. Which of the following situations indicates potential time temperature abuse? A. A pot of soup held at 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 4 hours. B. A delivery of frozen shrimp that arrives at 10 degrees Fahrenheit. C. Cooked rice that has been left at room temperature for 2 hours. D. Sliced tomatoes held at 50 degrees Fahrenheit for 6 hours. A chef is reheating a previously cooked and cooled batch of chili for hot holding. What is the minimum safe reheating temperature and time requirement? A. 135 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. B. 155 degrees Fahrenheit for 17 seconds. C. 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. D. 145 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 seconds. A restaurant receives a delivery of raw poultry, and the receiving employee measures the temperature of several packages at 46 degrees Fahrenheit. What should be done? A. Accept the poultry since it is close to the required temperature. B. Reject the poultry immediately and inform the supplier. C. Cook the poultry immediately to kill any potential bacteria. D. Store the poultry in the walk-in cooler and monitor its temperature for the next few hours. A prep cook is cooling a large batch of mashed potatoes. Which method would be the safest? A. Placing the entire batch in a deep container in the walk-in cooler. B. Splitting the potatoes into smaller portions and using an ice water bath. C. Leaving the potatoes at room temperature for 4 hours before refrigeration. D. Wrapping the potatoes in plastic and storing them in a cooler immediately. A batch of beef stew was left in the temperature danger zone for 5 hours before being placed in refrigeration. What should be done? A. Reheat the stew to 165 degrees Fahrenheit and then properly cool it. B. Keep the stew refrigerated and serve it within 24 hours. C. Discard the stew immediately. D. Freeze the stew to prevent bacterial growth. Which of the following foods is at the highest risk for bacterial growth? A. Cooked pasta stored at 38 degrees Fahrenheit. B. Ground beef patties cooked to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. C. Sliced roast beef held at 100 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 hours. D. Freshly washed apples stored at 45 degrees Fahrenheit. A restaurant prepares chicken salad sandwiches using leftover grilled chicken. How should the chicken be cooled before use? A. Leave it at room temperature for 2 hours, then refrigerate. B. Place it in a blast chiller until it reaches 41 degrees Fahrenheit. C. Cover and place it in a deep container in the refrigerator immediately. D. Store the chicken directly in a sealed plastic bag to maintain moisture. An employee has just finished handling raw chicken. When should they wash their hands? A. After putting on new gloves. B. After cleaning the cutting board. C. Before handling raw chicken again. D. Immediately before touching anything else. What is the minimum duration for proper hand washing according to FDA guidelines? A. 10 seconds. B. 15 seconds. C. 20 seconds. D. 30 seconds. A food handler has a small cut on their index finger. What is the proper procedure for working with food? A. Apply antibiotic ointment only. B. Use a cloth bandage. C. Double glove the affected hand. D. Use a waterproof bandage and single-use gloves. Which hand antiseptic is not approved for food handler use? A. Quaternary ammonium. B. 70% alcohol-based sanitizer. C. Iodine-based antiseptic. D. Chlorhexidine gluconate. An employee's fingernails extend 1/4 inch beyond their fingertips. What action should management take? A. Provide nail clippers. B. Issue a verbal warning. C. Send employee home immediately. D. Require double gloving. What is the proper response when an employee reports having diarrhea? A. Assign them to non-food tasks. B. Require double hand washing. C. Exclude them from the facility. D. Monitor their bathroom breaks. A hand washing sink has water at 98 degrees Fahrenheit. What should the manager do? A. Continue normal operations. B. Use hand sanitizer instead. C. Adjust to 100 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. D. Switch to disposable gloves. Which personal hygiene policy violation requires immediate corrective action? A. Wearing a plain wedding band. B. Having natural nail polish. C. Wearing an exposed medical alert bracelet. D. Using scented hand lotion. When must a food handler wash hands after handling money? A. Only if bills are visibly dirty. B. When handling coins. C. Before any food contact. D. After handling large amounts. What is the primary reason for prohibiting false eyelashes in food preparation areas? A. They may affect vision. B. They collect bacteria. C. They are a physical contamination risk. D. They violate uniform policy.